The process of rosin, you're wasting stuff the entire time. And from BHO, it's maximum efficiency and everything. It's a huge difference between, are you making money off this or are you spending money on this? Debate between rosin versus BHO going on lately.
Oh yeah, I think if you're in the industry, you definitely have seen all those posts by Doug from Hitman Glass talking about BHO versus rosin and all the trolling that's been going on.
It seems like it's everyone getting involved in it, and half of the people seem like they really know what they're talking about. The other half almost seem a little uneducated on the subject.
Yep, exactly. I think it's a mix of responses from actual manufacturers and consumers are, talking about how they prefer one over the other, but it's a lot of times it's the manufacturers that get very technical with the details.
For sure. And the manufacturers are all, of course, biased as well, because they're all actively trying to promote their own product and all of this. And realistically, the people that have been involved in this and have been making it, they know there's benefits to both of them at the end of the day. You can't really complain with that. And you're more of a BHO guy, right?
I would say yes. If you looked at my fridge, you wouldn't think so. But I think that's also indicative of where the retail market is right now, because I source a lot of my products from companies like Seventh Pen Labs or whatnot, and they mainly produce solventless products, and they produce high quality solventless.
That's what's available in that quality these days, isn't it? It's not like when people were doing much smaller batches of BHO. That's people are doing BHO these days because it's a big batch. It's a completely different game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's strange as well, because I feel like if you brought this debate over to Europe or something, people wouldn't even know where to start. Half of them don't know the difference between what those things are. They know hash oil.
Yeah,
it's about it. All falls into the same category to them. Definitely an interesting one that people have been going on about.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the global market is in a whole different level in terms of like what they know about BHO versus rosin, and all the stigmas around BHO still permeate those industries in other countries, and so it's a completely different level of understanding of the science and all that these other markets as well.
100%. It's like the last time I was in England chatting with companies out there, they were explaining to me that they stopped distributing hydrocarbon systems simply because the clients that were buying them couldn't legally be educated on it, so they ended up with a lot of dangerous situations happening from people that didn't know what they were doing, including themselves who were selling it. Really does affect the stigma for sure.
The difference in the actual process. Maybe you can kind of go into the difference between solventless and its process.
One is solventless and one uses solvents. Biggest thing. And I think one of the obvious differences with that, the biggest thing that the consumers see or hear is solvents in general. That sounds scary and something you're ingesting. And the consumers don't obviously know about this equipment and how it works and the testing, and realistically, your BHO is coming out just as pure as the rosin, if not purer, because it's filtered out a lot more stuff. But people get so scared by the fact that there's chemicals in it, just scary things that they don't fully understand, making them scarier. Obviously, when you're washing rosin, you're getting a bucket of water, some filters. It's an easy thing to comprehend. It's essentially, to a consumer, like making a cup of tea. Harmless, safe, easy going. So I think the consumers really see the rosin as the plus, because it seems like the Whole Foods organic version,
yeah, exactly. I think it's also in like the understanding of the consumer of the actual process. It's like they know roughly how solventless products are made. It's not like a super complex process, but with BHO, they may not fully understand the actual details of the process, what goes on inside the equipment, how much butane is left in the product. And so I think that also leads to a lot of concern about what is actually going on when you extract with solventless process versus BHO process. And my goal at the end of the day is to kind of educate the market and kind of teach them what to look for, what the difference is in the process, and why one process might yield a certain purity result versus another. And so
Absolutely, and there are huge differences in there. Like the process of rosin, you're wasting stuff the entire time, and from BHO it's maximum efficiency and everything. It's a huge difference between, are you making money off this or are you spending money on this?
Yeah,
It makes a big difference.
And I think one thing that's interesting about the solventless process is the processors know they're leaving a lot behind when they're doing solventless, while with BHO, like you're trying to rip out everything that you possibly can from the biomass. And so it's a much different approach. Like one group is trying to, extract or pull out just the best of the best in that product versus, BHO, you're trying to pull it all out and then filter what you want to keep and try to, keep it true to what you extracted, but also, be selective with what you're pulling out through the overall process. So.
For sure. Yeah, I always kind of thought the solventless community was missing out on that, because a lot of the time, obviously they're missing out on a ton of money, but a lot of the time when people would be explaining their processes to me in the past, it almost felt like it was, to them, more of just a flex that they're not using all the extra stuff. Makes such a valuable product that they don't need to worry about all the stuff they're wasting. That's the vibe they gave. And it always seemed like such short-sighted way to go about this stuff. It doesn't make much sense at all to me. Just down to the nugs that you're washing in the ice water bath, for example. I'm surprised there haven't been many people coming out with machines to efficiently dry this and at least turn it into distillate and stuff. But it seems like so much of that community is just so diehard against distillate or anything like that they refuse to make the extra money. And rosin could probably be a lot more commercially viable if these rosin producers would go that route. There's definitely space for both.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, agreed.
Let's talk about the entire country and what we think people are buying in quantities. What do you think is most popular at the moment?
I think most popular would probably be solventless products and rosin from that category. I mean, you do see BHO products still, but it's a totally different category or price tier. Now, when you look at the sheer volume of product, a number of brands that are being produced and consumed, it's still probably heavily on the BHO side. But in terms of what you might find in my fridge, it's all solventless based products, because I know for a fact solventless producers are almost required to use higher grade biomass. They're not trying to pass CRC as great product, things like that. I think that plays a huge factor in terms of what consumers are buying and actually consistently buying over time. And so if there was high quality BHO, you would probably see a totally different selection in my fridge, but that's not the case right now in terms of the reality of the market. So
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, with the rosin, you are completely physically unable to make a bad product if you want it to sell. It's just not going to happen. It makes a big difference for sure. For that reason, I would completely agree with you. And one thing I hadn't really touched on here, when we are talking about BHO versus rosin, would you include in this debate all the hydrocarbon products that are used in edibles and liquid drinks and all sorts of other things that might not just be hash? Because when I think of BHO, that is inherently already about 7 different types of hash, right?
Yeah, I think BHO product can kind of be utilized in a lot of different offshoots of SKUs, whether it's the edibles or whatnot. They can get further refined into distillate and used in vape pens and drinks and different formulations. So that definitely plays a part. But I will say a lot of consumers are big on the whole solventless side and having rosin infused edibles and things like that, and that's a very popular SKU in different markets. And so I think both of them have great way to be able to infuse into edibles. But I would say primarily when I look at the edible manufacturers, a lot of them are using distillates or highly concentrated products because they can dose them easier and get them to be more homogeneous.
Absolutely. By the time you've got food grade rosin, it's even more of a question what your percentage is. You're never going to be able to get an accurate dosage. But that being said, I personally have always preferred the rosin edibles because it's more like consuming a whole plant. rather than distillate, which just does half the job. It's like I saw an analogy for it one time, like a hand blower when you're drying your hands. One never gets you completely high, one never gets you completely dry.
Yeah, exactly. And you also don't, with solventless, you can actually taste the while with a distillate product or highly refined BHO product like isolate, there's no terpenes left. No. So that's like a big difference in terms of how people are infusing those products into the end consumer product.
100%. And it also ties in a bit with what we were chatting about earlier of using the waste. That is one of the things, I'll correct my statement from earlier, that is one of the things that the rosin guys are using their waste for. That food grade rosin they turn into food, and it is a great way to stretch that out when you've got a fraction of a gram in each edible, and that was essentially just waste product for the rest of your SOP. At least they're doing something with it. It's not 100% getting wasted,
Yeah, exactly. I think even with BHO labs, there's like all this biomass that people are processing. There's still 1% plus left in there, and even more with solventless. So I think there is a need for another type of extraction process using something more aggressive like ethanol or methanol to be able to get all of the rest of the active ingredients out of the the biomass that was initially extracted. So it's not just BHO or solventless that gets everything that they want out of the product. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then XD, since you're the XD man himself, where would you say XD sits in this?
I would say there's a lot of bias there because we've always been big on BHO from day one. That's kind of how Xtractor Depot got started. But I think I have respect for both markets. When it comes to what we specialize in, we specialize in the BHO side of things, the science of the BHO process, and that was always what intrigued me, was being able to really merge science and together to really create like a high quality extract. That's the same thing with solventless. There's a lot of science involved with the solventless process, but not as much with solventless. There's only so much science involved with water and agitation. But in terms of being able to take what we've learned from the BHO process and the efficiencies that we've had to create and the constant bottleneck fixing that we've done in the BHO process, I'm excited to be able to use a lot of that experience to help the solventless process become more efficient, more ergonomic, just more, competitive as an extraction process. Because I think there's a lot of untapped development potential in the solventless side of the market.
For sure. It's like it's what the market wants. It's just not what the producers are capable of yet. And that's not to say it can't happen. It definitely can. And I really hope to see XD get in there and really change that for everyone.
No, definitely. I think like some of the things that we're working on right now, the press and some of the things that we have in the works is going to really help bring more efficiency and more science-based design and a reason why certain things are designed certain ways to the softness market.
I think you hit the nail on the head there with the more science-based design, because so much of the solventless industry is a lot of pseudoscience. It's a lot of people just telling you what worked for them one time and you having to believe them. And that's not always the case, as we discussed earlier, with all the different variables in this process. And I would really like to see the day where that's changed.
Yeah, no, definitely.